Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. My goodness. Hello, everybody. How are y'all? Is that going to be used, that microphone? Okay, so we're here is okay, right? In the lab. Hi. So good to be here. So how do you begin one of these things? I don't know. So what I ordinarily do is tell you something that's happened to me recently, and then we all get acquainted and we all feel good. So what's happened to me lately? Oh, I came to Raleigh. Oh no, that is Raleigh. Full Rings a few months ago, and it's a guy by the name of Brian Curl from Heartland Records, and he says to me, "Would you like to make a country music album?" And I did the same thing. I laughed. You're kidding, right? No. The group Alabama, Jeff Cook of Alabama, wants to make a country music album. I said yes. So then the process of making an album began. I had made other albums, but country music I love, because country music you can understand. There's a lyric, there's a melody, you know. A guy's talking on my rock, you know. It's country music. So there used to be in Times Square in New York City a building called the Brill Building, and that building was occupied by people who were composing songs for the entertainers of that era. So if you were in Times Square and it was a warm day in New York City and the windows of the buildings were open, probably before air conditioning, the sound of pianos being played would float over Times Square, because in that building were composers composing songs. And in that building would go the great entertainers of that era, Al Jolson, Eddie Cantor, ultimately Frank Sinatra, and they'd go and say, "What do you got?" And they'd play a song, and the entertainer would say, "Oh, I like that," or "I don't like that." And out of the Brill Building came many, if not most, of the classic hits that we look back at and say, those were cool songs, and they're standards, really. So the Brill Building stopped somewhere along the line, and composers seem to have moved to Nashville. And in Nashville, there are many, many people composing country music songs, I imagine other songs as well. But the country music formation, the creativity of country music is in Nashville. And the Brill Building that used to be, although there isn't a specific building in Nashville, the composers are there. So Brian Curl of Heartland Records said, I said, "What are we going to sing?" He said, "We'll send you songs." Now became a flood of songs out of Nashville by really talented people. They are so talented that they themselves could be entertainers. They're so good at what they do that they're writing songs that they themselves could have been performed by them, but the lucky moment of being in the right place, the right time, whatever the magic formula is to become popular, didn't hit them. But they're great performers, and they're performing their song. So I would listen to a song, and then I would say that appeals to me, that doesn't appeal to me. Jeff Cook of Alabama, who was doing the album with me, expressed his opinion, and eventually we got 12 songs together. And the 12 songs were, and actually are, on my telephone. So I would listen to the way these performers did their song and rehearsed with them and listened to it and learned the words and learned the music and learned. And I was performing them like the guy or the girl who had written the song. I was in Germany doing something with them, and the date to record the album came up, and I had to fly from Germany to Nashville, and at 12 o'clock midnight on a Monday, Brian picks me up and takes me to Jeff Cook's castle. He's built a castle on the outskirts of Nashville, and he has a recording studio. So I got some sleep, and then at 10 o'clock Tuesday morning, I'm in front of a microphone and in a recording studio with glass panes, and the lyrics are in front of me, and they're playing the music to which I had rehearsed so many times. I had rehearsed it so many times for myself that I was really ready to perform. I could have performed them on stage, but I just began to lay down my tracks in the studio, and by 6 o'clock Tuesday evening, from 10 until 6, I had done all 12 songs. And the rest of the week that we were there, they were laying in other musical tracks, and Jeff, with his vocals, would weave in and out. So I did my album in one day. And now, it's coming out like this next week or two. It's called Why Not Me, which is one of the songs on the album. And opening night of say a Broadway show, or a television show for that matter, or even a movie. Finally, all the art is done. The actors have performed, the music is in, the color is corrected, or the play is ready, and the curtain goes up, literally or figuratively, and this piece of art is presented to you, the audience. And it's only then, this reaction tells the people involved with the particular thing that you're doing, only then do the people involved with the effort understand whether they've got something that is good or something that is bad. Only the audience tells us when it's a success or not. I was on a Broadway show, rehearsing a Broadway show in Los Angeles. We were going to take it from Los Angeles, run to New York and open on Broadway. Famous playwright, famous director. An opening night in Los Angeles required me and the actors to come down to the apron. The curtain is closed behind us, no light. And we're now standing in the darkness. The audience is waiting before the lights come up. Thank you so much. That was very sweet of somebody back there. So the actress and I got a hand. You're holding hands, was required, which was rehearsed. And we're waiting for the lights to come up to talk to the audience, to begin to act. And she leans over and says to me, "Are we in a disaster?" And then the lights come up. And we were. It didn't get much reaction and closed a couple of nights later in Los Angeles rather than New York. It was a failure. So the album was made, and last week I began interviews to publicize it. but it had no reaction. I don't know whether it's as good as I think it is, but I've been fooled before. I wouldn't have been in that play if I thought it was terrible. I thought it was great. Are we in a disaster? So now I've got this album, and you go through a number of are we in a disaster, and it turns out to be a disaster. You're so apprehensive. So the first interviewer, who was a musical guy, I said on the phone, you're the first person to hear the album other than the people who've worked on it. What do you think of it? Silence. I go, uh-oh. And he says, awesome. Got the first review, awesome. So, and then later this year, I've got a Christmas album, which I think is equally good, called Shatner Claus. And I've taken Christmas songs and bent them a little. I'm conversing at great length with Alice Cooper down in the green room. Alice Cooper, you know how bent he is. And he wasn't bent at all at one time. He was straight up. He was a runner and the pastor's son. He's a little bent now, Alice Cooper. Coop is a little bent. A little bent means just a little off the ordinary. So I think Shatner Claus is that. And I got a book also coming up. Live long and ... The rest is up to you. So that's what I'm doing. Let's take some questions now. Is this microphone working? And we've got a line up here. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Is that you? Are you first? Are you asking questions? No.
I am asking.
You are. Good for you. Right into the microphone.
Thank you. Anyway.
Wait a minute. Anyway. How do you start a question off anyway? Like I was saying.
Hank here.
Hank here.
And I just...
Right into the microphone, Hank.
I just wanted to say, it's an honor to be in your presence. And
Bless you, my son.
I've waited 3 years since I got disappointed for not asking at the Wizard World Raleigh Q&A 3 years ago. But now that
I know you got a question buried in there.
I do. You know those PC games you did in the 90s, 25th anniversary and Judgment Rights? I am wondering if you still remember any of the recording sessions to the canceled game, Secret of Vulcan Fury, and you have any idea where the recordings are.
I have the foggiest notion of what you're talking about. I hear the words, but it's either my senile brain, but you're making no sense at all. What do you want to know? What can I help you with? I'd love to relieve you of your pressure.
It's okay, that's all I wanted to know.
That's it?
That's it.
I have no foggiest idea what you're doing. You're very welcome. Nice to see you, man. Now, I know you've got a question.
Yes, with the recent passing of Harlan Ellison, I've been thinking a lot about City on the Edge of Forever, which I think is the best episode of the TV series. And he had an original script which was changed by the writers of Star Trek. And I'm wondering what you think of his original script where Kirk actually tries to save Edith Keeler, and do you think that's just the feud, supposed feud between Harlan Ellison and the TV show was exaggerated?
Harlan Ellison, he recently died, didn't he?
Yes, sir, a few weeks
ago.
ago.
Harlan Ellison was a great science fiction writer. And he's, as somebody said earlier to me this morning, he's no longer on our planet. But knowing Harlan Ellison, I'm sure he's on some other planet somewhere. Harlan Ellison was lovely. He was very creative guy. That water, did you knock over that water? I was sure you knocked it over. Thanks. Bending over in front of a lot of people is not the best idea. Harlan Ellison So he had this vivid imagination, and there's a he wrote the script for one of the episodes of Star Trek, which involved the cast of Star Trek going back in time, and there's this grandfather theory. Those are people who want to come in, and you're all here. And they're complaining that they can't get a seat, that we're sold out. They're screaming and yelling, and we got police down there. They're firing smoke tubes. You hear? I'll do another show. Tell them I'll do another show. I'll let them in. So there's this thing called a grandfather clause in science fiction, which has to do going back in time. Because if you could go back in time and the bottle fell to the ground and you didn't pick it up, all of the future is altered. I mean, what happens? The bottle is down there, so somebody later on picks it up. He picks it up, it breaks, and he's got water on his pants, and somebody says, Did you leak in your pants? And, no, I did. And a whole story takes place because the bottle fell while going back in time, but didn't fall when it actually happened. So the whole future is altered by the slightest thing you do. The butterfly effect, that a butterfly fluttering somewhere in Mexico can eventually alters the way the world goes because of the ramifications of every little action. So the plot was that the lady I had fallen in love with was going to be hit by a truck, and would I save her as Star Trek Captain would? Or do I not save her and let the past not alter the future? That's the grandfather law. So what it really does is, in logic, eliminate the ability to go past in time. And one of the movies that we did about the whales, they wanted to go back in time. They wanted to go back in time. And I said, I hate going back in time because it couldn't happen. It is illogical, excuse the phrase, for it to happen. And they said, you don't know what you're talking about. And they made the movie, and it's like one of the terrific movies of the, so that shows you how little I know. So Harlan Ellison, if I remember correctly, wanted to save the girl, and you couldn't save the girl because you altered time, and there was a struggle about concept. Now, a writer is a hired hand. They write what they think is a good story, and then this is in television, and then the television producers and directors, the people who are running the show, in this case it would be Gene Roddenberry, and Gene would have said, I don't like this, change it, and Harlan, being a writer and independent, would have said, what do you mean change it? That's my script, and Roddenberry would say, no, we bought the script, it's ours. And they had a contretemps, which is an argument. They had an argument. Now, I don't know how much of drama would be put into an argument like that. Harlan was a very dramatic man, and to come to think of it, so was Gene. You know, something untoward happens, and you make a big deal of it because it's drama. But mostly it's exaggerated, and people get over it for simple reasons, like Harlan Ellison wanting to sell another script to Gene Roddenberry, and Gene Roddenberry needing a good script from a good writer. So a lot of these dramas are overblown by the rumors and the press and all that. But Harlan was a hell of a good guy. You good? Thank you. Hey, my dear, you got ears on.
I do have yours.
Right close to the mic.
My name is Raylene. I was wondering.
Hi, Raylene.
What was your favorite moment this last few years on Better Late Than Never? I know that you all went like around the world, and I want to know what
We
your favorite
did. My favorite moment on Better Late Than Never. Well, oh, look at that follow spot. Where's that going? So I don't know how many of you saw Better Late Than Never. Oh, that's good. So Better Late Than Never required Henry Winkler, my dear friend, and Terry Bradshaw, the great quarterback, George Foreman, extraordinary man who won the heavyweight championship twice, and Jeff Dye, a youngish comedian who was great fun. So they put us in all kinds of situations, and we would ad-lib. As Henry was saying the other day, the show wasn't written. We wrote the show. You'd say hello, and I'd say goodbye, and we had a scene going in some manner. So, but they would put us in precarious situations. So I guess my favorite precarious situation. You dropped the bottle again. Would you help me with that bottle, please? Because bending over in front of an audience is right. Thank you. See, this is the routine we have going. This is it. Now, every time I speak, I'm going to drop the bottle, and you're going to have to pick it up. And then one of the times, you're going to go to pick it up and say, I don't want. And I'm going to say, I don't want that bottle. Okay. So we're in Scandinavia, we're in Sweden, and we're sitting around the table, and one of the producers, one of the writers, I guess, guys who think of the situation, hands us a can of fish. It's a can, sealed can. And they said to us, this has got some fermented cod in here, and a certain number of the Swedes think it's a delicacy. So you guys open the can and have some of this fermented cod. Now, among the five of us, there are some people who are adventuresome in eating, and others who prefer a hamburger. If it's not a burger, it's not food. And Terry Bradshaw is one of those. Terry Bradshaw's an All-American, 4 Super Bowl rings. Okay, he was, and therefore is one of the great quarterbacks that ever lived. Tough guy. But he's not adventuresome in eating food. So the can is handed to one of us, I've forgotten. And the can is expanded. It's like puffed out. Now, those of us in the know, when you see a can that's swollen, you get rid of it. Because if you eat it, you're gonna die. So everybody knows, oh my God, what happened there? You throw it in the garbage. Now children, don't go near that can. And you get rid of the can as soon as possible. They hand us this swollen can. And they said, okay, somebody open it. So I think it was George Foreman who opened it. Well, it's swollen because gas is pushing it on all sides. So when he opened it, when he punctured it, the gas exploded with all the fermented cod that was in the can. It spattered all over us. There were 5 cameras, one here, one here, one here, one here. This camera here, the frame line caught this cameraman behind this camera. When he smelled the fermented cod, he projectile vomited. And this camera caught it. And it's on the air. In fact, they were going to cancel the shot. The top producer said, "Oh, that's too vivid." And I said, "George, you've got to put it in. It shows everybody how incredibly bad this thing smells." This guy goes, "Wah!" And right in front of this camera, the thing explodes of vomit. That's how much it smelled. Let me tell you how tough Terry Bradshaw is. Terry told me this story. He's in the middle of playing one of the important games, and the whistle blows, and the play is supposed to be dead. But the linebacker who had him in a tackle, instead of letting him go, picks him upside down, and Terry's 6'3", 6'4", 280 pounds, picks him up and pile drives him into the ground. The play is dead. Terry hits it with his head, and he can't move. He's paralyzed from the neck down. They cart him off the field. He can't move. The great quarterback is paralyzed. The audience was still. He couldn't give a thumbs up. He couldn't wiggle his toes. He was paralyzed. A great he was an athlete since he was 6 years old. He can't move. Can you imagine what that would have meant when he woke up and he said, "I can't move my arms. I can't swallow. I can't." And he told me he wept. He cried for himself. And it took 4 days before the swelling, or whatever it was, went down, and suddenly, by Tuesday or Wednesday, he could feel his arms and his legs, and by Thursday he was back to the football team, and the coach said, "You're going in on Sunday as the quarterback." And Terry said, "But I couldn't, you're going in," and he won the game the following Sunday after being a paraplegic 2 days before. That's how tough Terry Bradshaw is. The same Terry Bradshaw is screaming, "Oh my God! Oh my God!" with the smell of the fermented cod. Oh my God! It was an open invitation for me to not only pop one piece in my mouth and chew on it, but to take another piece and run after the greatest quarterback that ever lived. And not only that, he cut to get away from me and fell to the ground, and I jumped on him and I bathed him in fermented cod. And he said later, the worst thing that ever happened to him was Shatner running him down. Not only could that have been the best moment in the show, it might have been the finest moment in my life. You're welcome. What do you got? Besides the telephone taking my picture, which you're not allowed to do. You got your little tummy showing, you know that?
Yeah.
Okay. You got a little belly button there too, you know that? Have you got a camera in your belly button? No camera in the belly button. Oh, thank God.
I'm Jenny.
Well, you're a little thing, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay.
My aunt was wondering if you guys are going to do any more episodes.
Wait a minute, your aunt was wondering.
Yeah.
You weren't wondering?
Well, I was
You
too,
bring
but-
this message from your aunt.
Yes.
Okay, so your aunt is wondering,
If you guys.
why isn't your aunt here?
Because she's in Baltimore.
Because she's what?
In Baltimore.
She's in Baltimore. Okay, that's a good reason.
She was wondering if you guys are going to film any more episodes of Better Late Than Never.
Are we going to have any more episodes of Better Late Than Ever? Well, to tell you the truth, NBC didn't pick up for the third season. Henry and I were saying the same thing. Because we love doing the show, and we've gotten, the guys have gotten really very fond of each other. In the beginning, what are we we doing here? And who's doing what to whom? And finally, we discovered each of our roles, kind of thing. We began to, and it's become like a fraternity, and it's really great fun. But there is the possibility that other networks will buy it. So we'll keep a good thought. So tell your aunt in Baltimore the answer. Hi, Aunt. Okay.
My name is Louise.
Are you aware that your hair is purple?
No. Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I thought I asked.
Why did you do that?
My son told me to.
Wait a minute, your son, how old is he, 3?
4.
He's 4. So your son says to you, Ma, purple your hair. And you say, okay, son, it's not gonna happen.
Well, the competition, we're like, what color do you think mommy's hair should be? And he was like,
Wait,
rainbow.
you say, what color do you want mommy's hair to be?
Yeah.
How about brown?
It wasn't.
I know,
But it was boring.
because you look like you had brown hair.
Right?
You don't look like you had purple hair.
That's because purple hair is fashion.
We're talking about a science fiction show here. What's natural? What's your question?
Well, I mentioned I have a 4-year-old at home, and we adore the show Clangers.
You and, Clangers, 4-year-old, yeah.
I mean, we love Star Trek. I love Boston Legal, and my husband and I love Clangers.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know how that wonderful show came about. What was the process that happened?
Well, there's a station for 2 to 4-year-olds, right, or 5-year-olds. It's what's it called? The network.
We watched it on Netflix.
Oh, you watch it on Network. What's the network? What is it?
PBS.
Sprout. The Sprout Network. No, it's the Sprout Network. I know what I'm talking about. So the Sprout Network says there's a show we're calling The Clangers, and they're little knit bodies, stop motion. So there's a little knit body, then they move the thing, they keep taking pictures of it, and it moves. And they're all sort of knit. They're little rabbit-like knit things. And I would be the voiceover telling the story. And there's an English version of it, and they played me a couple of the English versions of it. And there is a sort of distant English voice saying, and then the Clangers went from the planet to their spaceship, and they struggled with the youngest. And it was so distant, right? I said, well, I don't want to do that. So what I did was, because I have kids and now grandkids, and my favorite thing I did, I went to camps, welfare camps for people who had no money all my life. And my popularity was based on my ability to tell stories. And I would tell stories as a 14, 15-year-old junior counselor at a camp where kids had seen their parents murdered. I mean, they were the toughest of the tough from the city of Montreal, going out into the country for a couple of weeks. And the only way you could discipline them was to hold their attention by stories. And the stories I told them were ghost stories, like the telltale heart, you know, where the heart is beating down in the basement, and the policeman comes to the door. Yes? Is there a heart beating here? No, there's no heart. And the kids are all fascinated because there's a body buried in the basement. And the ghost is coming to get you. And they were all like mesmerized. It was the only way I could hold their attention. So I was like a storyteller. But I wouldn't do distant, be removed. I was right into the story. So I thought I would tell the Clangers story. That way, here comes Mommy, Mommy's coming down, and there, where is Daddy? And do it like you were telling a story to a child. And it got really successful. It was fun, wasn't
It's beautiful. It's wonderful.
Thank
My
you.
son's favorite nighttime show.
it? And he's 4 years old, and he directed you to have that hair. I'm sure he knows what he's talking about. Next question.
Hello, I'm John.
Keep calm and don't blink is on your, that's what they're telling you when you take a picture. Yeah.
Yes, sir. I've been a Star Trek fan my whole life.
Thank you.
I grew up on it. I played Star Trek as a kid. I had dolls. I had built models. I taped my fingers together to learn.
Yeah, I had to do the same thing.
When
I
I
can't
was
do
7,
that.
I learned to raise my eyebrow.
Really? I can't do that either.
One of the funniest things to me growing up was seeing you on Saturday Night Live, telling those people asking you the craziest questions
Yeah.
about something that happened in a show you couldn't hardly remember the details.
Actually, I remember that sketch because people bring it up all the time, asking, what did I mean by that? Get a life.
Well,
I wrote a book called Get a Life.
Yes, I know. And I promise not to ask you about scene 2 in episode 64.
Oh, well, what happened there was
If you would do me the honor of telling me to get a life and if I have any
get
artistic
a life,
girl.
whatever God says, get a life. You know, what's your name? John was saying, and it just sparked a memory of how the kids play the game and play Kirk and Spock. Here's the story. I haven't told in a long time. Very, very meaningful to me. So I'm going to some event, and they send big expensive car for the person, you know, it all looks really prestigious, and you're dressed up and you're going somewhere, and I'd rather be with a horse than going to the event, but I'm going to the event. And so I get in the car at my home, and his chauffeur is all dressed up because it's a big event, and he starts to drive, and then suddenly he stops the car and turns around and looks at me. And I go, oh dear, what's going to happen now? And he says to me, I want to take this moment to say something to you. Oh Lord, what's he going to do? He said, I was captured in Vietnam, and I was with McCain in Vietnam at the prison camp where they held us. And I was underwater to my neck for days at a time. I was tortured. And we were all going insane from the pain and the lack of food and the dysentery and the cruelty and the death. And he said there was one way we kept ourselves sane, in the cages, in the water. And we'd play the Star Trek game. I said, what's the Star Trek game? Now he's crying and I'm crying. And he says, we all knew the episodes of Star Trek. We all knew the dialogue. And each day, one of us would play the captain or Spock or the doctor. We'll play the different roles. And the only way we kept ourselves sane was to play the Star Trek game, and I want to thank you. And at this point, we're both weeping, and when I finally get out of the car to the event, they asked me what was wrong with me. And I had gone through this enormous emotional event in which something innocuous like a television show had helped these brave men survive that cruelty. So it was a real moment, and John, your question reminded me of it. Right close to the mic.
Jim Stewart and following
Jim. Should have been Jeff, Jim. Should have been Jeff. You're from the South, right?
Originally from upstate New York.
Yeah, but now, change Jim to Jeff. It's a real Southern man.
All right, I'll try that. Anyway, my first time seeing you and remembering you was when you did your Twilight Zone episode on the plane. And to this day, I can still remember it. I was always afraid to lift up my shade in my room when I was growing up.
Don't do that.
The fear of the grandmother.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you, you had such a great rapport with Leonard Nimoy in Star Trek and all your movies. I was wondering, what is one of your fondest memories of working with him?
Well, I wrote a book called Leonard, my dear friend Leonard, my friend with him for 50 years. Two things that your question reminds me of. The first thing is my kids who would watch the Twilight Zone. When we'd all get on an airplane, they'd say, "Daddy, do the look." No, come on, kids. Daddy, do the look. Okay. I'd be in the airplane seat. I'd be looking out the window, and one of my daughters would say, "Miss, come over here." And the stewardess would come over and say, "What's the matter?" And I'd go, and my three daughters, every time, they never got old, collapse in laughter, and whatever we call them, the ladies who take care of us in the airplanes, would be so upset. As for Leonard, you know, in a show, a long-running show. I did a Broadway show for 2 years. I've done more than one television series for 5 years. Movies, big movies can take months to shoot. And that length of time gives you a bonding with the other players because it's us, the actors, against everybody else. I don't like the director, you don't like the producer, the script. You're bonded and you live this war together. You're like foxhole buddies, and you're the dearest of friends and pals. But what happens is when the show's over and you're on your last day, you hug each other and you say, "Oh my God, I can't believe it. But I'll call you tomorrow. Well, let's have dinner tomorrow just to get over the sadness of the." No, wait a minute. I can't call you tomorrow. I'm busy tomorrow. I'll call you next week. We'll have dinner next week, okay? Next week, you're busy and you forget to call. And almost invariably, with some great exceptions, casts who've been bosom friends for all that length of time disappear. Because you get busy, people go off on different projects, and you never see each other again. James Spader, whom I've spent 5 years with, I love James. He was a dear, I haven't seen him since the end of Boston Legal. So that's what could happen. And on Star Trek, the series was over. It was moderately successful. After 3 years, it was canceled. Cast all said goodbye, and it was all over. Except some years later, they said, "Well, let's make a movie," and then we started making a movie, and then these things called Comic-Cons came, and Leonard and I would do a Comic-Con. And what should have been in the natural course of good friends partying and not seeing very much of each other, we were thrown into each other's company all the time. We used to do on stage, be on stage together, and he would double me over with laughter, and I laughed with him. And then I would be in a limo somewhere, going somewhere. One day that I vividly recall was there were 4 of us in a limousine, and all of us smoked. This was during Star Trek. And everybody in the limo said, "I'm giving it up." And they each had their reasons. I don't want to be disciplined. For me, it was my kids wouldn't kiss me because I smelled of smoke. So I said, my kids aren't kidding. I'm giving up smoke. And the only person who didn't And years later said, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you grab the cigarettes from me? It was Leonard. Because Leonard died of emphysema caused by 2, 3, 4 packs a day. But all that time that I spent with Leonard, I got to know him. Our fates were somehow bound together. We were born within 4 days of each other. He was born in Boston, I was born in Montreal. Boston, Montreal are close. We came from the same background, the same kind of parenting. Our careers, it never was magic and suddenly you're a star. It was a lot of work, a lot of learning, he was my brother. He was the brother I never had. And it was as a result of the continuing work that brought us together. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much. Look at this lineup. I'm sorry I can't get to it another time. What a wonderful time. Thank you. Thank you so much.